Everyone, it's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. I think we're going to go on live for real without doing the tech test because we had a very long conversation and I think we figured out what the issue was. So today's guest is New York City family lawyer, and there she is, Mia. You did it perfectly. Um, Force to be reckoned with, which you will see as soon as you hear her start talking. And there she is. Yay! It worked.
Hello. Listen, things always work out, Lisa.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to start for real now, if that's okay. So I just said that you're from New York City, and I didn't even mention that we met recently. We've had a couple conversations, and we definitely have a love connection. And so I had started thinking, well, I have to have Mia on to talk about this one thing. Oh, but there's this other thing we need to talk about. And then her story is insane. So Mia, today, why don't you briefly introduce yourself, and then we need to hear this story, and we'll talk about other stuff at another time because it's just, it blew me away when you told me, and I thought we have to share it with the world.
So, first of all, Lisa, a big shout out to you and Chris for inviting me. And I think I dropped this bug in your ear that one of your clients sent me a text yesterday saying basically, Lisa and Chris totally rock. So I'm even more hyped to be here with you today. So
Thank you.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for the work that you guys do. But I'm Mia Poppe, as Lisa mentioned, and I'm a matrimonial attorney. And my two offices are in Midtown Manhattan and in Westchester County. And coming in September, I'll be opening an office upstate in Saratoga Springs.
Wow. That's exciting. So here you are doing all kinds of stuff with divorce and post-judgment issues, but you have your own incredible story. And I want to start telling it, but I don't. I want to let you tell the whole thing from the beginning, and I'll pepper you with questions throughout. So what happened? Tell us about what brought you here with that huge smile after everything.
So, many moons ago, and I'm not allowed to say how many moons because my marketing team tells me to no longer tell my age that I'm very proud of, but many moons ago, a baby girl was born in the deep South. I raised all my life in South Carolina. Before I was an adult, never even traveled to New York City, and was raised with deep Southern thinking. You get married when you're 18, you have babies, you're a grandmother by the time you're 40, and so forth and so on. But life had another plan for me. Life had a greater plan for me. And I like to tell people, Lisa, that matrimonial law found me. So I was like a lot of good Southern girls. I graduated from college in May and got married in June because that's what we do. And that was marriage number one for me. And, there's so many reasons why the things that you and Chris do are so important for so many people, because 3 weeks after I got married, Lisa, 3 weeks, it only took 3 weeks, and I was 21, I knew, oh shit. And I went on to live in an oh shit marriage for 12 years and I gave birth to 3 children. And because no one knows more than I know, Lisa, that breaking up is so fucking hard to do. I'm sorry. Am I?
You're allowed. You're allowed. We don't censor here.
It is so. And even at that young age, I graduated from college. City recruited me into their MA program immediately. So I was in leadership roles, being trained by a top bank that had international presence, and making really good money as a young woman and as a young woman was respected in that business environment. And Lisa, I still didn't have the skill set, the tool set, or the vocabulary to extricate myself from that marriage that at week 3 I knew was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And but Lisa, as I'm sure you see all the time, we all get to our last straw.
Yep, where they say it's more painful to stay than it is to leave.
Exactly. Exactly. And people ask me all the time, well, how did you stay? If you knew at week 3, how did you stay? How did you do that? And was it completely miserable? And no, it was not always completely miserable. It was not self-serving, but it was certainly not miserable. And the reason.
Uh-oh. Oh, wait, Mia, your volume went for 1 second. Okay, say it again. The reason it wasn't miserable was?
It's because I did what a lot of people choose to do. I began having babies, and I completely enmeshed myself in the world of my little cute itty bitties, right? Just completely began living my life through and for my 3 children. And so that made me happy. But Lisa, that's not a full life for any adult.
Yeah.
It's just not. And we deserve more. We were created for more. We're called to do more than live for and through our little itty bitties, as cute as they are.
But thank you for noting that, especially for this audience who feels like everything is for the children. Certainly, yes, but not everything.
Lisa, this sounds so redundant, but the airlines got it right when they said, put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so redundant, but it is such a truth. And I can tell anybody in hindsight, me staying for those 12 years was of no benefit to my children. It was zero benefit to my children, but it had great benefit for the world because I gave the world 3 amazing people. Does that make sense, Lisa?
Of course. Of course. I have 2 of my own.
Yeah. So, but doing it for the children, no, because the children did not benefit from, potentially seeing a parent, a key figure model how to live less than your best life, less than your least fulfilled life. That is not the modeling that I think we should do for our children.
Right,
So,
because it normalizes that sub life.
and Lisa, it's so easy to normalize, cognitive dissonance makes us normalize it.
Yeah. Do you want to, some people don't know what cognitive dissonance is because we just had a call with a client earlier. Didn't you want to just say what that is?
Yeah, so cognitive dissonance is a term that comes out of the psychology world and it means that 2 things are so 180 degrees opposite of themselves that cognitive dissonance forces you to reconcile them together. It forces you to bring them together to make the unhappiness seem happy, right? And it's a fictitious thing that we create for ourselves, but it's for survival.
Right.
Cognitive dissonance helps us to basically survive. It's a survival technique. But listen, we all should not be living our lives in survival mode.
Right. Especially when the person that says, I love you is making you feel horrible all the time. And your brain is just like, is this what this is acceptable? This is what marriage is supposed to be.
And it's that state of confusion, just what you just described. I'm getting bad treatment, but with the words, my partner is saying, I love you. And you try to reconcile those 2 together. But listen, those 2 can't be reconciled together because if you love me, a certain type of treatment attaches.
Right.
If you don't value me and you disdain me, a certain kind of treatment attaches.
Right.
But those
That's a
those
great word,
treatments.
disdain, to treat someone with disdain, because that's how we are treated in those relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was a 12-year marriage until one day it wasn't. I got to my personal breaking point, but I want to tell you, Lisa, but for my tribe that I had surrounded myself with, but for the tribe, I, people describe me, it's not an adjective I ever use for myself, but people describe me frequently as strong. The adjective that I use for myself is capable. I don't, the word strong is not my jam, but I'm a capable person. I had a career, I had education, and but for my tribe. And so what I tell people today in my practice, listen, if you haven't built a tribe, and I say this all the time, Lisa, I was just saying it yesterday. If you haven't built a tribe, if you don't live where you have a tribe, then go out and buy yourself a tribe. Because when you buy yourself a tribe, what you're doing is you're making a capital investment in you. And by buy yourself a tribe, what I mean is buy yourself, retain coaches, retain life coach, divorce coaches, meditation coaches, a therapist. So I want to be amazingly clear on what I mean when I say buy yourself a tribe. And I want to be amazingly clear when I say that the checks that you write for a divorce coach, for a life coach, for a therapist, those are capital investments into yourself. So I invite everybody to reframe in our mind when we are writing those checks. Oh, I got to pay this to my life coach. No, 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 no. Right now, I'm making this $550 investment into me.
To get
Right?
through this.
And to get through it, but to get through it, in an empowered fashion. Plug. I wrote a book titled The Empowered Woman's Guide to Navigating Divorce. And in this book, I talk about my own personal use of coaches. And it was really my use of coaches that propped me up, because initially in my second round, because I told you about my first round,
Oh,
but
in the second round.
recently, Lisa, there was a second round for me, because
I
that's what
know.
us Southern girls do. We keep marrying until, right? I'm joking. That's not what we do. Please don't think negatively of us Southern women. But there was a second husband that I married, had a beautiful set of twins with, and divorced. And I thought, this is how you do a divorce. Because that divorce was painless. It was quick, fast, and easy. The divorce was filed in 2015. It was finalized in early 2017. I was a practicing lawyer, and I was like, now, this is how you do shit. Aren't I the model? And then came January 2019, when I got served with a post-judgment action, a custody action.
Now you're talking. This is our world. Okay, what happened?
So I get served with a custody action. And not only did I get served with a custody action, in the same service, I get served with a ridiculous action called a plenary action, where basically my ex-husband was going to try to make new law in the state of New York by asserting that during the course of the marriage that I had taken certain acts against him. And this when I say try to create new law, like, he was asserting a claim that New York doesn't even recognize. No state recognizes it, right?
The divorce was over for years, and then you suddenly get served for a change in custody, modification, I'm guessing, and then for some new reason, like out of who knows what. And
as
This
leverage.
is now your field. This is your
Right.
field. So you are a divorce attorney, family lawyer, matrimonial. That you know this area. So
Ask me what happened, Lisa. Just say,
yeah, I
Mia,
was
what
going to say,
happened?
so what happened? So you get this stuff. What was your first thought when you got this
Oh,
service?
oh, Lisa, it knocked me to my knees. It knocked me to my knees. So much so, and this is literal, that I dropped the papers and called out to my trusted, very, very young assistant. And I said, Rach, help me. What the fuck is this? And it was a literal knock me to my knees. And again, I know they're going to say, would this woman stop talking about tribe? But, you know, Rachel picked up the papers, picked up my arm, grabbed me off the floor, and she sat down and she read the papers. And she said, Mia, it's not good, but it's a bunch of bullshit. Who should I call? Because Rachel knows me and she knows I'm a tribe person. Lisa, the tribe.
So I'm
And
thinking like false, but the thing is the false allegations, that's our world. And as an attorney dealing with divorce and post-judgment matrimonial issues, why would you be so surprised to get hit with false allegations?
well, because I was already divorced. You know, Lisa, listen, filed
You
in
thought it was done. We're
2015.
done. It's
Lisa,
fine.
filed in 2015, finalized in 2017. I'm strutting my lawyer self saying, this is how you do a divorce. Everybody should do a divorce.
Role model.
Lisa, this is how you do it. How
Yeah.
smart am I?
Right.
How
The
savvy
arrogance,
am I?
pride goeth before the fall.
Lisa, girl, I was singing the song, Look How Much the Universe Loves Me.
Mm. Oh.
And Lisa, you know, the reality of it is, and you know, I am very careful when I try to be careful when I use the word narcissist and when I talk about narcissists, because I think at a certain level, when we talk about narcissism and the narcissist and what they can do so much with them or that behavior, and we sort of remove power from ourselves. But this ex-husband, you know, was a narcissist. And the lesson learned, Lisa, is they can be patient and they know
That's
how to
scary.
wait until you least expect it. And when they show up, listen, I haven't met a narcissist yet who doesn't show up as the world's most likable person.
Oh, well, I have. But keep talking.
Listen, they all show up at some level as, you know, Mr. Right, but the people who go in their crosshairs would describe literal monsters. And the rest
Mm,
of us that don't cross their crosshairs, their crossfires, would be stand up guy, stand up girl.
mm-hmm.
But you cross their crossfires. And the most dangerous thing for me about this guy with these narcissistic tendencies, because I'm not a therapist, right? But the narcissistic tendencies were patently there, was, and this is what's tough for people, is narcissists don't count the cost. You talk about the proverbial cut off their own noses to spite their faces if they think it will hurt you. Also, and unless you've dealt with these people, you may not be able to appreciate it, but let me reassure your audience that I'm not a big fish storyteller. These folks will do damage and harm to their own children if it will get to you.
Oh, we know that
Because
every day,
the,
all
and,
day.
and our courts repeatedly deny or pretend as if they're denying that the narcissistic personality, doesn't diminish their children to, oh, this is collateral damage. And they do. And they do. And the problem with courts is, first of all, courts can't fix our social ills. And the problem with courts is they immediately look for ways and reasons to normalize and equalize both parents. And to do that, they have to ignore the bad behaviors of the narcissistic person, and they have to find fault with the parent who is like walking on a tightrope, exhausted, because they're dealing with this literal onslaught, this war being raged against them by the narcissist. Mm-hmm. And the courts do. And what that does, and what it threatened to do with me, because I was in that situation, the court ignoring like outrageously bad behavior, that absolutely, it was just outrageously bad behavior, and looking for fault in me. And Lisa, that part of the court process can threaten, because I said with me, it threatened to really make me lose faith, hope, and confidence in the justice system. But it also threatened to make me get very, very pissed off with the, legal system, the matrimonial bench, as, lawyers tend to call judges. We say the matrimonial bench.
Right.
But
Mia, you forgot to say it didn't, it also threatened your entire career because you're an attorney. You forgot to mention that part.
I listen, and it's very clear when we go, Mia, you're an attorney, to be accused of any wrongdoing would, we can all see that clear line of where it would impact. But Lisa, it's broader than that, because if you think about like even your circle, right? The people the clients that you help, a lot of clients have licenses. And so my license happened to be a license to practice law. But with any of our licenses that any of us hold with the state, certain allegations can impact your license, which is how most of us make our livelihood. And I really want, people to get a hold of that. No, like, of course it was clear, that I'm a lawyer, it was clear. But if you have a notary public license, that can be threatened. If you have a real estate license, that can be threatened, right? Like if you are licensed with the state, that's at threat.
We see this all the time.
It's at threat. And the narcissist never stops to think, oh, wait, if I impede their license, they use that license to make money to feed my children. That will never cross their mind, because quite frankly, it seems that they really don't care about that.
Oh, totally agree.
So yes, my license was definitely put into the crosshairs, just for the most ill-intentioned reasons. The most ill-intentioned reasons. And Lisa, I'll quickly jump to the end, because it, cost me an incredible amount of hard dollars, actual money that I had to pay to my lawyers. And it cost me a lot of soft dollars, money that I lost because I'm in the middle of, litigation. But
okay, pause for 1 second, Mia. Pause for 1 second. So here you are, an attorney, but you've got other attorneys to represent you. Why did you do that?
Because I needed the tribe, Lisa. I needed the tribe.
It was a rhetorical question.
Lisa, okay, so first of all, and another reason why you need the good tribe is all of us, the best of us. And I pride myself in my sturdy, strong mind. But when I tell you, especially if custody is an issue, and in my case, custody is an issue. Now, listen, if you really want to screw with somebody, screw with their children, right? If I want to really get at you, Lisa, I don't come at Lisa. I come at Lisa's two children. And
Oh, wait, volume.
I just really, everybody just needs that emotions do cloud your judgment. And I say that, Lisa, as a part of my response to Mia, you're a lawyer. Why would you need a lawyer? Because the emotional onslaught, the emotional attack clouded my judgment.
So what happened? Tell us what happened.
So I'm a practicing mat lawyer, and for almost 3 years, my attorney lost 100% of every piece of relief that we ever requested, which
3 years.
Yes. And conversely, my ex-husband in this post-judgment was winning everything. And
Even
not only
with false allegations. With false
everything,
allegations.
like Lisa, everything was unbelievable lies, like completely unbelievable lies. But, this is for another call, Lisa, but, listen, I love the bench and I love judges. And now if you ask me who I think, are the top 3 fairest matrimonial judges downstate, the judge who decided against me for 3 years, I mean, his name is going to be number 2 or number 3, even though I lost in front of him for almost 3 years,
That's
even
the
though he
story.
believed everything, because we all are what we are and we all live in the bubbles that we live in. And there's no shame to that. That is just where we are. And in the world that this male judge lived in, like, the male voice resonates. Oh, that sounds right. When somebody uses the same vernacular, they speak the same vernacular, they have a similar background, like, it's easy to drink the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm. But do you think so? Your ex-husband in this situation was white, also.
Yes.
Let's get into that a little bit, if you don't
So
mind.
no, I don't mind, and I think it's another piece of the reality in the world that we live in, because especially downstate New York, and when you talk about New York City and the surrounding suburbs and the boroughs, Lisa, 68%, and this is a number that I read about 8 years ago, 68% of New Yorkers are from out of the country.
Wow.
So when you talk about, like, us, like, New Yorkers, we're a rainbow people, right? We're a rainbow. We are the people that are going before courts. Now, our courts, are not so rainbow, right? And have we made tremendous strides? Yes, we have. But in my case, I, was a Black American woman, emphasis on woman, using female vernacular, right? Using female facial expressions. Like, when I'm standing in court and I'm hearing like a ridiculous story, I guess on my face said, now, ain't that some bullshit? Because, I remember one court appearance, we're in court, and my ex-husband's lawyer says to the judge, look at Miss Poppe. She's standing over there laughing. She thinks all of this, that all of this havoc that she's wreaked is funny. And Lisa, I was standing there and there was a big smile on my face because the story was so fucking fantastical. And I was thinking,
I know. I know. It's stunning, right? It's
I was,
astonishing. You're just
Lisa,
like,
the lies were stunning. And I was smiling because I was thinking, oh no, this can't be real. This lawyer is not bold enough to tell this absolutely ridiculous lie, because nobody would bite on this, because that's how preposterous it was. And yet I continue to lose. But
oh,
I do want to say, Lisa, so this is why, like, if you're going through, especially with custody, I don't want to put on any parent, but if it's custody, you cannot afford to settle and sign up for a bad agreement for your children.
mm,
And nobody wants to be in custody litigation. I went through custody litigation, and I still to this day say custody litigation is for losers. Like, because you were in the dungeon when you were in court. But I do believe, and from what I see from my clients in my practice, like, I do believe stay the course. Now, I do, and I say that to clients. Listen, I know this is painful, and I can feel the pain because I've lived the pain. I believe I'm one of very few attorneys, especially in New York, that I know, because that's where I practice, that have gone through custody litigation in our courts. So I not only know how to navigate it because I'm a lawyer, but I am someone who experienced it. And I experienced almost 3 years of losing, Lisa. And Lisa, because there's always icing on the cake, not only was I losing, but the judge was ordering me to pay counsel fees for them in $30,000 pops. I was
oh.
like,
I mean, it's so awful, but I'm so glad you're saying this because this has happened to our clients as well, where they're just like, I can't believe this. And the
it,
word you use, preposterous. Yes, I don't hear that word that often anymore, but it's perfect. It's
it's
preposterous.
it's preposterous. And again, just going back to, we all live in a certain world. And hey, Lisa, if you come and sit at my table and, say something that's a little sketchy, I'm sitting at the table with you. You're a woman, I'm a woman. We've had some good female banter. I'm going to drink some of that Kool-Aid. Now, maybe if you come and sit at my table and you're a male and you're from Kentucky and you're speaking a little bit of Appalachia, I'm not going to drink your Kool-Aid because there's no affinity there.
Mm.
And so that's what we all need to understand. So, like, I'm really pro the bench. I'm really pro judges, and I don't bash judges, and they do a hefty job. But we have to understand, for all of us, affinity is real. And the more someone is similar to you, the more likely you are. Listen, let's just call it, I don't mean to insult anybody, but let's call it the Bernie Madoff syndrome. That was preposterous. Those real statements were never in existence. But yet it continued. And so, that's what I like to remind clients sometimes when they're, griping about a judge, and it's like the judge is listening to everything, all these lies that he says. And I go, there is something, that I, coined the term the Bernie Madoff syndrome, right? Because I use that in my practice, and I have a few of these expressions like divorce psychosis, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's how it happens. And so, Lisa, you will be a benefit to clients who are on this rough journey if you remind them of how the landscape works, because people need to know how the landscape works, because the legal game, the custody game, is not like the games that we're used to playing. It is a new game, and there are new rules of engagement, and there are many invisible factors to consider. And I think that's what makes me really good as a divorce attorney, is because I'm very in tune to reading the invisible. Like, I am always reading the invisible. I read tone, I read body language, I read strategic pauses, because the invisible is having a humongous effect and impact on cases.
You know, what you just said reminds me of what we often tell our clients when we're talking about the art of persuasion and convincing a judge to believe you. And we say that there's three elements involved. One are the facts and evidence. The second is how the facts and evidence are presented. But the third is ethos, which is the atmosphere and understanding the system that you're operating in and knowing how to navigate properly through that system. So people come into court thinking a certain way of like, well, but it should be about the truth and I need to talk properly and just be honest, but that's not how the game works.
It's not, Lisa, listen, so this is the first time you've said this to me, you know, the three things that you really coach your clients on. And like, you're doing them a huge service. And you're doing a huge service when you educate them on ethos. You're doing them a huge service when you educate them on that. But I would just ask you to just remind your clients, especially when custody is at issue, that, you know, stay the course. Just stay the course. And one thing, you know, through working with my meditation coach, because I had to really coach up to get through this, and especially because the costs were so high. And she really got me to the place of just detaching from the monetary impact with, okay, just make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. But keep talking to me about what happened. So you were losing 100% of your everything. This cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Huge threat to your business. How did it start turning around? Because you're still the same person you were. So we talk about the term image rehabilitation. Did you have an image rehabilitation before this judge? Or what happened?
Okay, so I'll tell you, and there was a what happened. And so, you know, sometimes I apologize to clients because I go, I'm very sorry, and I rarely ever say that word, I'm very sorry, but I go, I'm very sorry, I got to go into the metaphysical. And so, Lisa, I'm very sorry, but I got to go into the metaphysical to answer that question. So the image rehabilitation was, I changed my vibrations. I can promise you, and this is exactly what happened, because remember, all along I'm working with coaches, right, and they're, you know, keeping me, you know, grounded and pragmatic, like, get in this game, right? And there came a day. Okay, so with my meditation coach, the big work that we were doing was on detachment. Detach from the outcome. Show up, do what you're supposed to do, detach from the outcome. Show up, do what you're supposed to do, detach from the outcome, right? And there really came a day when I detached from the outcome. And a big part of detaching from the outcome meant, when I shedded my attachment to the outcome, I really, honestly shedded my angst and anger and, oh my God, I can't believe this judge. All of that shed. And I promise you, Lisa, when the image correction was that in my mind, I had a complete paradigm shift of how I saw that judge. Because before I was saying, he's on his side, you know, two white males, he's on his side. And I resented that he was on his side, right? And literally, I looked at it differently. Like, you know, this judge is judging as he sees right judgment. He's a good judge. He's sworn in. He doesn't walk into his courtroom and say, who can I screw over today? That's ridiculous. He walks in his courtroom and he tries to uphold the Constitution of the state of New York. And I promise you, I saw my attitude completely changed about the judge, and it created such a vibration. And how I know that is because the way the judge, his law clerk, the officers in the courtroom, the officers at the front door, how everybody would react to me when I would walk into the courthouse in the courtroom after I changed my mind. Because what was on my face was a smile of, how are you doing? And a smile of gratitude. Thank you for giving your time today. And I really had gratitude, and I really had gratitude for the tough job that was before him. And I began thinking, gosh, if I was a judge and I was just, slaughtering an attorney, I would feel kind of bad, because attorneys are my people. All right. And so, like, I even had that sympathy, like, oh my God, this man is so honorable and he's making these really tough decisions. It must be tough to be burying a lawyer, right? It must be so tough. And I had a complete mind shift, but I only had that mind shift because of my tribe, right? That's how I had the mind shift. And when I shifted my attitude, my mind, everything, when I tell you 180 degrees, and when I tell you, I can honestly say, oh my God, for many reasons, I would so hate to be my ex-husband today, because I have never, this poor man is living through outcomes that I, as a lawyer, have never even heard of. I've never seen, a court really just apply justice in such a firm fashion.
Okay, back up. So first of all, I don't know if you see the note on my partner Chris wrote. This is great stuff, so in sync with how we coach our clients. When you were talking about mindset, that's a huge thing we do with people, because people come in and a lot of times they're overwhelmed, terrified, and confused. And we give them what we call, because we're all New Yorkers, a harsh New York reality check, and saying, this is why they're doing what they're doing. It's not personal. The judge does, it's not that the judge doesn't care, but the judge has to just apply the law. That's not part of the job here. And once people start understanding, like, this is what it's for and this is what it can't handle, they adjust, they change their mindset, and they adjust their behavior to act more appropriately. And they do see generally more success because they understand. And showing gratitude is a huge thing we do. I'm not even going to get into now either, but also not just with judges, but with custody evaluators and everyone involved with the case, because they are dealing with so many people who are angry all the time. So when you shift, it's like everything changes. And that's the one thing that you do have control over, because you can't control what's happening. But by changing your own mindset, and it's not easy, and this is not like, oh, go fix it. Like, this is what coaches are for, to teach you exactly what to do. And we can't do that now during this interview. But step by step, you start to change, and the world around you starts changing.
Lisa, when I tell you, in my case, and remember, I was really doing the work. I'm working hard with these coaches. And it wasn't, for me, things just started to change. I literally had a 180-degree turn. Like, it was a complete 180-degree turn. And you know what? I can tell you honestly, when I had a complete 180-degree turn, that means things got very painful for my ex-husband. And I got to tell you, I took no glee in that. The only thing I thought is, damn, I would hate to be him. Oh my God.
Okay,
Oh
you're
my God.
leaving out a huge chunk here. I'm losing, everything is awful, and now he's completely losing. What happened? And I want to keep an eye on the time, because I want to make sure we keep it under an hour, because you have to come back for another topic. I want to be able to clip this up.
So, like, when you say what happened, are you talking about the outcome?
Yeah, so here you were just talking about how everything was bad and you're losing, and there's racial bias and sexism and all that other stuff, and then your mindset changed. But what happened in that court?
So my mindset changed, and following the mindset change, everything changed in the case. And so, Lisa, so what I'll say, and listen, for anybody, Lisa, that contacts you, I am perfectly happy to discuss this and divulge this in a not so public forum, because there are two minor children who were
Right.
impacted. But
General
yeah,
terms.
what I
Yeah.
can say is that the children are completely unburdened and unencumbered and completely protected in the most extreme way from any of the ill effects of, you know, their other parent, their father, in this case. Like, when I say completely inoculated from it, there is complete protection.
So
And I mean, probably I can
everything
tell.
went completely your way, like the fantasy that people think happens all the time, which is so rare, you had happen in your case.
I had happened in my case, and the outcome was so extreme and favorable in the interest of the children that, you know, it's my personal opinion that our judges don't want me to say it publicly, because they don't want people to think that it's really a possibility, because it's something that, you know, in our profession we go, well.
Uh-oh. Oh, wait a second. Oh man, your volume went off. No, no, no. Okay, wait. So you said the last part we heard, I think you might have gotten a call or something, is in our profession, judges usually don't want you to say it because
Yeah, like, because we always, our courts, everybody, lawyers, judges, everybody says, you know, you need to learn to make peace with, you know, how they parent, because they're gonna always co-parent with you. They're gonna always be present. You're gonna always be at events and activities together. They're never gonna go away. That's the rhetoric.
right, but
And
that's not what happened for you. Wow.
it's not what happened for me. But listen, you know, my journey, it wasn't it wasn't a glass staircase. It was a staircase with thorns, shrapnel. but but the children, let me just say this, my children were 100% served. The court did the A+ on what upheld the best interest and the protection, even protecting the children's future, you know. And it was, you know, it was incredible. But Lisa, I, you know, I did some incredible work, because, you know, whenever you're working with coaches, they tell you a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily like hearing.
That's why we call it the harsh New York reality check.
So, Lisa, when coaches told me stuff that I didn't like to hear, I didn't fire them. I trusted my professionals. I might have gritted my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I might have pushed back a little,
Oh
right?
yeah.
But Lisa, as I said to you in the pre-call, Lisa, I follow directions magnificently.
Right.
And that's, you know, so, like, listen, the process was not easy, but would I do it the same way again for the life that my minor children have today? I would absolutely take this pill again. And a convenient offshoot, Lisa, is because it cost me so much hard dollars, where I was actually paying to lawyers, and soft dollars, revenue I lost from my own business
Mm-hmm.
because I was in court. Lisa, I am now, like, not afraid of a dollar sign. You can tell me how much something costs, and that price tag could be $50K, and I'm going to respond the same way to a $50K price tag as a $50 price tag. I am not afraid of numbers anymore. Just tell me the number. Whatever needs to get done, it's going to get done. And that was a collateral benefit of the process that I went through, because, you know, listen, it would have destroyed me, I would have thought, forever financially. But
Mm-hmm.
with the mindset shift, right? Because when your mind shifts, your mind shifts. It was like, okay, I'll just make this money back. But today I get the benefit of living a life free of any fear of any number. It's just a number. Tell me the number.
Wow. Wow. I'm wondering if you could mention, I don't know if you can publicly, about how the judge's mind changed from one extreme to the next.
We
Because
literally,
you said something like people want to do the right thing.
right. So what I think, Lisa, what I think, and what I tell my clients, I always say, just wait for it. Just wait for it. Stupid always shows up, and they show up big. Just wait for it. Just wait. And I will share in my case that there came a day when these young children refused to go on a child exchange, and this ex-husband called the police on very young children. And I think that was hugely telling to the, you know, like, Lisa, wait, you called the police on my fucking 6-year-old?
So that was the turning point.
And, you know, that
3
just
years.
made it so, and then everything shifted. And really, I do say that to my clients. Listen, I know this is painful, but wait, just wait. Because one thing about these certain personality types is they just don't recognize any boundaries. They just don't, Lisa. And when you don't recognize boundaries, one day you do eventually go too far.
Mm.
Think about it, Lisa. They eventually one day go too far.
Yep.
Right? And so, you know, listen, the end of my story, and I like to frame it as is the end of a very positive story, because I benefited because I got to deepen my love for the judicial system and for judges. And they don't show up to their jobs saying, who can I screw? Who can I overlook? And I also gained a deeper insight and appreciation for biases. And bias is not a negative word. And just because you're biased does not make you racist or sexist. You are just biased. And what we have to do is just recognize it and then craft the narrative in a palatable way. To say that a judge is biased is not the end of the day. Okay, so how do we tell the story? Let's role play this.
Love it. We do that all the time with our clients. Love it.
Right?
Figure out a better way to communicate. Let's
figure out.
Try something different.
Lisa, try something different. But madness and disrespect for the bench doesn't serve any of us well. And I'm talking about what serves our clients in their positions. And certain things don't serve us well.
Right. It's just defeatist to say the person doesn't like me. It's biased. Family court is broken. It's defeatist because it's like, then why do I need to even bother trying? So,
exactly.
But you have to try. You have to we talk about the marathon mindset. Like, you have to keep coming back. And if it doesn't work this time, yes, it's a gut punch and you feel awful for a while, but then you got to pick yourself back up and use your tribe and use your resources and figure out a better way to do it. Not just to give up. We often say to our clients, it's not that you lose, it's that you give up too soon.
That's right. And listen, you would serve your clients well if you printed on t-shirts marathon mindset, because that is the truth. Lisa, it is the truth. Like, this process is not for the faint at heart.
Oh.
And the reality of it is, please remember the beginning of my story. I got these papers, dropped the papers on the floor, and fell to my knees. Like, this stuff, it knocks you down. Right. And you got to have people to pick you up, and you got to have people to feed that hard truth into your ears. No, this is how this game goes down. Let's get in this game and let's play. Here are the rules of engagement, because there are rules of engagement, Lisa. There are rules of engagement. But I am so big on, let me tell you, I never sit silent and let my clients speak ill of any judge, because it's not helpful. And we're creating the wrong kind of vibrations. And we're moving the focus off of what can we do differently to let's just bash this judge. I never sit silently for that. I never sit silently. No, you're not gonna, you're not gonna come into my office or on my Zoom and speak negatively about a judge, because it's not helpful and it's the wrong vibrations. Let's talk about how we're gonna play our hand differently.
Exactly. Let me check the time. Oh my gosh. Like 1 minute. So Mia, how can people find you? And I know you're going to be, obviously you're going to come back and talk about other things.
Okay, great. Thank you for asking. So you can find me, you can go to my website, www.miapoppe.com, or New York Law, ShawAssociates.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Mia Poppe _ESQ. Lots of ways to find me. And of course, Lisa, they can contact me through you.
Yes, and of course, right in the caption there, they can click and go right to you.
That's exactly right.
Thank you so much, Mia. I hate cutting off this conversation. Like I said, we always have this love fest every time we get together. And I know I will be meeting you in real life at some point soon, hopefully. And we'll figure out the time to get you back on to talk about all the other stuff and how to do some of the processes that you talked about to start changing the narrative of your case and have that image rehabilitation and hopefully find justice.
That's right. And justice can be found, Lisa. Please, justice can be found.
I know it. Congratulations.
Run the marathon.
To you and to me.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Bye.
for the invite.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.